All right, bro, you want to know how disappointing this game was? I didn't even come up with 3 topics to talk about.
Oh no.
It's so hot in here. I'm wearing sleeves. I'm not wearing sleeves. My background is the Giants. Like that's how frustrating this game was. My green screen's not great. So we're just going to quickly talk about it. I don't think this is going to be a very long show, but we didn't get to talk after the last game, which was the Wiggins game, as you can see by the dunk here. But you know what this game was? And maybe we can kind of start with this. This was very, very much a Kamudi game. Like both in a positive and a negative way, right? Because they came in the second quarter, and I think they were a -8 in their minutes together. And I thought it was an interesting play because they don't often play together unless it's garbage time.
Mm-hmm.
Usually it's like one or the other. And so Steve put him in, and I don't know if you've seen any of his post-game just his talking points, but it very much sounds like he was frustrated with the defensive effort. So maybe he thought putting the young guns in and trying to get some energy that way was going to be good. But what did you think of when Moody and Kuminga came in at the same time?
So we were podding. We were doing the BAM pod basketball show, and it leaked into a little bit of the Warrior game. So I missed about the first quarter. I went and watched it back after the show was over, but Obi was live watching it and spoiling it for me like a jerk. And he's like, and he was like, Brian, you will like, I want to hear your thoughts. Like when you're watching it back, like what, like at the start of the second quarter, tell me what you think about that lineup. And I was like, I swear to God, if it's Kuminga and JTA and at the same time, that's going to be trouble. But it was Kuminga and Moody.
Yeah.
I know that I think I mentioned, I think in our text thread that like Otto missing, Otto Porter Jr. did not play today. So I didn't think they'd give run to JTA. I didn't. Okay, full disclaimer. I didn't watch game 3. I was moving. I'm currently in San Francisco. I don't know if you see by the new background we got going on here. You know, I'm not in Gilroy anymore. I moved to the city. I am 20 minutes away, walking distance from where the Warriors play. So we were thinking about going to the watch party today. But
what about from Oracle? How far are you?
Oracle, it feels about similar, 20-25 minute walk, but it's what, 5-minute drive, you know. It's so, but anyway, you said that the JTA minutes weren't that bad, even though he was a minus in those 5 minutes. But I was thinking that Otto missing, you know, Otto's a big, gets a lot of minutes in that rotation. JTA is 5 minutes. Like Kuminga had to get some minutes. I honestly thought he was playing today. I just didn't think he'd get thrown in with that lineup, and I didn't think he'd get thrown in for the amount of time he got thrown in because, you know, I think they've done it throughout the season. This kid, he's a 19-year-old kid. You could probably put him up there for 15 minutes in one stint, and he'll still keep going with a good amount of energy. But I feel like it's a bad, you know, it's I don't know if it's a good message to him when you go out there and play 9 minutes and 51 seconds that you play 9 minutes and 51 seconds. And if I get pulled from that, it's like, okay, I played well there. But it just feels like they needed bodies to fill that rotation. And do you know what I'm trying to get at here? That like,
here's where I will actually, I understand, but here's the thing that I think the lesson is going to be for him, which is you are a rookie during the regular season. We are going to do our best to make sure that, you know, we put you in good positions. But during the playoffs, this is where you get your basketball lesson. And that first 9 minutes or whatever was a struggle for him because he was trying to be that energy that they needed, probably doing a little bit too much. Luka got him a couple times where Luka pretended like he wasn't even going to play defense on him and then slapped the ball away. But what it did was it readied him for the fourth quarter. And he had a really good fourth quarter. He was aggressive. It's funny because when that garbage time lineup comes in, he's the youngest guy on the court. Him and Moody are the youngest guys on the court. Yet he takes complete control on offense. He's just like, give me the ball. It's my time. You know, I'm going to shoot these shots. I'm going to take this guy. I'm going to do the spin. I'm going to get to the hole. Like Bielitsa is a vet. D. Lee is a bit of a vet. And it's Kuminga's like, nope, this is my turn. Then Jordan Poole came in and then Jordan Poole kind of took that over. But those minutes I thought may have not been good in the second quarter, but I think he realized like, oh, I have to raise my game if I'm going to be in at this point. And by the second time that he came in, I thought he did that. Same with Moody though. Moody's a little gun shy to shoot that jumper unless he's wide open. But I thought he also had some really nice situations happen for him late in the fourth quarter in that comeback. They were down 29. What did they get it down to? 7 with that squad? I kind of wish they left those guys in.
So does Marcus Thompson.
Well, right when Steph came in, what did they do? They drilled a corner three right in his eye.
Oh yeah.
And it's like because Steph likes to help. Sometimes he cheats on defense, and then he got beat on that three in the corner. I would have left him out. I know some people would have said, "Oh, how can you? You're making a comeback. You can't leave that on the table like that." But I was like, that was the right lineup. That lineup was probably a plus 20 together in that fourth quarter, and then he made some changes.
That was very entertaining. It felt like, we thought that maybe the Moody Kuminga lineup is potentially what lost them the game, but it's also what almost brought them back into the game. So it was a little ironic in that sense. I thought that that lineup, and then I think they rolled out a lineup where it was Moody and Damian Lee in like the second quarter, where I was just like, oh, I'm not. What's going on here?
Yeah.
So what do you think? Otto obviously gets a lot of minutes, but I think it was also due to Jordan Poole foul trouble.
Yep.
And that was really it who was in foul trouble, it felt like. Looking at the box score now, everyone else is 3 and under.
I don't think anyone was really. I don't think that was the reason they lost. I think the reason they lost is because the Mavs got hot and they played this really interesting style. Like, I know Charles Barkley wants to say the reason that they won is because they scored some points in the paint. But from how I was watching it, what they did was they were still very Luka focused, and Luka was kind of baiting the defenders a little bit. Like, he knew who he wanted to throw to. And a lot of this was Finney Smith was the recipient of this. And so he'd kind of lull the Warriors to sleep. He'd kind of go in that direction. And then he'd throw like this no look pass to the corner, and they'd have this wide open three. It was like the Warriors thought, when Luka does this, he's going to go here. So we're going to try and jump that. And Luka was like, no. When I go here, I'm going to go here. And I thought he did a really good job of that. And it was almost like the Warriors maybe got beat by thinking that they knew what was coming. And Luka was like, I know you guys know that you think you guys know what's coming, but I'm going to give you something different. This is the chess game that I was talking about, before game one, which is I was, and Luka's such a smart player. I don't even think he played that well. Like, he didn't shoot well.
He did not
for the most part. I thought he looked a little hobbled. He came up lame a little bit a couple of different times. This was definitely the game for the Warriors to kind of boat race the Mavs out of the gym. Except the Mavs got hot. And then when the Mavs got hot on offense, the Warriors started forcing some stuff. I mean, you know how I feel about Jordan Poole. I love the guy, but I'm also going to point out when he doesn't play too tough, because they were pushing him around. They were holding him. And I think it really affected his game offensively and defensively. Like, Reggie Miller's starting to get in on him too. Reggie Miller's like, Jordan Poole, he's got to toughen up. They're going at him. He's got to hold his ground against a Jalen Brunson. I was like, yeah, like that has been happening all season long, but he's been so fantastic on offense, like game 3, that you have to live with it, because when he's fantastic, he just changes the rhythm of that game so much. But offensively, he didn't have it. So now we're just there to point out his defensive lapses.
Reggie Miller was trying to get a pun so badly when the rain was coming down. He like tried it twice. He's like, when it rains, it pours, or something like that for the Mavericks. But
Jason Kidd did the same thing.
Yeah, he did. But it felt like, we were after game 1 and after game 2, like kind of the story for us in this podcast was like, Jason Kidd's been hyped up to be this like pretty good coach who makes adjustments. Game one, he's kind of just analyzing. You could watch him there. He's not really having too much emotion. He's just watching what's happening. And then when game 2 and game 3 kicks in, he's like all over the place. That maybe that was the adjustment. And I like how you mentioned that, because while you're mentioning that, I was thinking, I was thinking of that too, where Luka, before he even starts the possession, maybe he's like, okay, if I start driving left, Klay Thompson from the right side on the corner is going to sink in. And like, if he already knows that before he's going to throw the pass, and then he's right, then it's gonna get there. So I wonder how the Warriors, not saying that was the idea, the mentality in Luka's head, but if so, like that's pretty deadly. And I wonder if how the Warriors adjust, where it's okay, let's make the left side Draymond, who's the floater, let's have him sink in or something.
Well, in the post game little interview that they did right after the game was over, she asked him about the defense, and he said, well, if Looney comes out, then he does this, and if Steph and Jordan Poole come out, they do this. So it's pretty clear that he knows, he has a good sense of what the Warriors are going to do defensively when they do the pick and roll. So it's almost like they were running that pick and roll just to make the Warriors react on defense, and the Warriors weren't actually running their pick and roll defense on the basis of actually getting picked. They were just running it on, okay, here's the defender, this is what we do every single time.
Yep.
And he was picking that apart. I thought that was pretty brilliant on his end. But, ultimately, I do agree with Kerr, because Kerr had mentioned in his post game that just the defensive energy wasn't there. And how could it be is kind of my response, because, they played 3 really hard games. The Mavericks played like what Jalen Brunson said on Inside the NBA at the end. He said, they said, how do you look at this? He's like, well, we look at it as 3 game 7s, essentially. And they definitely played for 3 quarters like it was a game 7. And the Warriors didn't match that energy. And again, how could they? Because it's not game 7 for them. It's just game 4. Yeah. And so, they get to go back home. Now, I think this Warriors fan base, because in our minds, 3-1 is like the worst thing possible that we could get. This is also why I really wanted the sweep, right? Because I don't want to hear the 3-1 jokes again, but we're gonna have to hear the 3-1 jokes. But if the Mavs can steal this game in Oracle, then that just changes the whole dynamics of the series, because what they did in game 4 is what they would have to do in game 6. And we talked about this, how you go home, you're probably going to get a little bit more of the calls, though I didn't sense that the referees were much in this game. I didn't even really pay attention to anything other than, Draymond screaming and one like a bunch of times. But that's kind of what they have to do, is they got to get this thing to go back to Dallas, obviously, or else they're going home. But this game 4 is what we thought game 3 was going to be, right? You and Ben, we were kind of talking about this in our chat. Like, this is what we thought game 3 was going to be. It just took them a little while longer. And I'm so thankful that it did, because if game 3 was tonight's game instead of what happened, they could have easily tied this series, and we go back to San Francisco, and it's 2-2. So Warriors won game 3, which was tremendous. They took care of business. They cannot mess around. They need to take care of business in San Francisco again. The second quarter, that the Mavs just go on this nice run, and I think Luka was even out for most of this run. And the third quarter didn't save them, like we kind of always think that the third quarter is going to save them.
Yeah. Since we don't have any points, there's 2 things that I noticed. The first was that Steph and Wiggins kind of have that like pick and roll defense heavy show down to a T almost, where someone, Bullock, sets a pick for Luka. Steph comes up and immediately just like shows, maybe tries to pretend like he's going to steal the ball, sprints back to Bullock.
Yeah.
So him and Wiggins have that down pretty well. But when it's Klay and Steph, I've noticed that Klay doesn't like know when Steph's gonna stay or not, even though Steph's purposely just showing to run back. So then Klay will sag off. Luka gets Steph in front of him. So I'm wondering if and it also seems like the Warriors are comfortable letting Wiggins guard Luka, Clay guard Luka, and Draymond guard Luka.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe to a fault. I don't know if Clay should be guarding Luka. I thought Clay was going to be an easier guard to Luka than, say, a John Moran or those quicker guards. I thought Clay would do better on Luka, but I wonder if it is getting Clay on Luka to then try to get Steph on Luka, because Clay and Steph don't have this like switch down to a T like Steph and Wiggins does. And then I also noticed that there was a lineup out there that it was either Dorian Finney-Smith or Davis Bertans as center. You'd think Davis Bertans because of the height, but I've seen some Dorian Finney-Smith center lineups, and they weren't attacking the paint at all.
Yeah.
So those are
and that's what you do, right? Is if you get a little bit of a lead, the way that the Warriors got back into some of these games was attacking the paint, but on the road in Dallas, they're probably thinking like, that was really hard what we had to do, in some of these games to do that. So let's see if we can win by the 3-ball. And they could not. They were, I think Dallas had twice as many 3-pointers made as the Warriors. But yeah, it's interesting because I couldn't tell. There's a couple times where Draymond was really mad, and I was like, who's he mad at? And both times it kind of looked like he was mad at Clay. I don't know if Clay was supposed to be in an area that he wasn't. Clay looked like he was, I don't know if he was upset. I'm sure he was upset because they were losing, but there was a little like jogging, sulking a little bit. I just wonder if he and Draymond were kind of upset at each other or something because of the defensive stuff. But I'll be interested to see if I was seeing that correctly or if I was way off and Draymond was mad at something else. But, Clay and Poole are very similar in this series. And maybe I'm not being as critical on Clay as I should be, as I am on Poole. But when they are not making shots, then you start to notice their defense even more. And I think the announcers are trying to be nice to Clay in some instances, but some of the Warriors not being able to get out to the 3-point line. A lot of this is Clay as well, because he likes to suck into the middle. He sort of sees himself a little bit more as like a physical guard, and he's getting sucked in, and he cannot get out to the 3-point line. What do you think about the play that they run really successfully, where they whip it around to the corner, and then Powell? I think it's usually been Powell sets that screen, and Draymond cannot get out to the corner.
That's what I talked about in the first one. Yeah, that's what I talked about in the first episode. It's very Spursy, I believe. Like, that's what I said. I don't know that for a fact. That's just what I've heard. But that is really effective. It's because, yeah, Draymond's he's a roamer. He's amazing at it. But that's if Powell wasn't there, Draymond probably blocks the shot. He's so good at doing that. Run down to the corner and get the block off or get a really good contest. But having Powell there, completely stops him. He can't do it. I don't know how you combat that, though, whether it's the wing guy who helps down really quick and then Draymond can shoot back out to the wing. But yeah, that's gotten them a good amount of times throughout these series.
So what do you think it takes for Game 5? I don't sense that the Mavs are going to just lie down. I mean, I think if the Warriors were able to get up by a large amount and, they're bombing threes and they're smiling and they're wagging their tongue, I could see that the game kind of getting away from the Mavs. But ultimately, I think this is very similar to the Grizzlies series when we were talking about the starts. Steph in Game 3, I know you said you didn't get to see much of it at all, but Steph in Game 3 very much decided that they were not going to start slow. He was driving, he was getting free throws, he was creating and, off of his drive and getting guys layups. And I think that that's got to be the mindset again on Game 5 so that we don't have to see a Game 6. Steph's got to be super aggressive. He's got to be a little bit ball dominating. That might mean that some of these guys stand around a little bit more, but when Steph is beating guys off the dribble, that means easy buckets for Wiggins. That means easy buckets for Looney, easy buckets for Draymond. Clay. Well, Clay's mostly back cutting off of off of like Draymond stuff, but I just think, you know, when they are relying on this rhythm game and, you know, getting everyone the ball, and if that starts slow, I think that could be a problem. So I would hope that they do a lot more of Steph dominant stuff, especially in that first quarter. See if they can wear down the Mavs defense a little bit, because the way that the Mavs are going to win game 5 is they're going to be running and gunning. And if you can slow them down by by beating them up on offense, by Looney grabbing boards, by Draymond grabbing offensive boards, and they got to play defense for like 2 and 3 possessions in a row sometimes where they don't get a breather. I think that's going to be the key to the game. So hopefully they go back to what they did in game 3, because I would like to see that. But is there anything that you think that they should be doing that they're not doing?
Hitting shots, maybe. I think, like you said, that, and also they got a lot of open shots tonight, whether it was in transition, whether it was, you know,
they didn't
Luka
shoot
getting
poorly. You know, they shot almost 50% as a team, but the Mavs shot exactly.
Okay, but
50%.
we should take out the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
I feel
what
like
did they do for the fourth quarter?
Or like, yeah, like I don't.
Yeah, the fourth quarter
how,
they were 15 of 20, so yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
that
brings
brought
it
their
up.
average.
I mean, all the starters were like minus 20 or something like that, and
yeah,
good old Bielitsa was like a plus 18. But
yeah.
In transition, I maybe that's just one possession, but I know Clay came up and got a wide open 3, missed it. But there's a lot of times where like Luka is mad at the referee because he didn't get a call, so maybe he doesn't run back as hard. There was a lot of open shots they got from that, especially. So if the Mavs are betting on the Warriors to just miss shots like they did in game 4, maybe that could work for one more game. It won't work for game 6, because we all know game 6 Clay, he is advertising it now. He understands it. But yeah, I think you can't bet on a scoring team on a shooting team to not hit shots for that many games in a row. I know, the Warriors had game 4 and game 5 where it was pretty rough in terms of shooting. Other teams like the Celtics have a pretty good shooting team that they live and they die by it in specific games. I think it was like the Bucks game 1, and then a game in this series, the Heat as well shot like 73 points in like game 3 against Philly. Like stuff like that happens. But I mean, they fire back and they can easily. They're a shooting team, man. You got 2 of the best 3-point shooters of all time. You got Jordan Poole, who's coming up in the league as this shot creator who can also snipe from 3. Like it's not gonna continue to. They're not going to continue to miss shots at this rate like they did this game. That's an outlier.
So now that you're close to Chase, are you going to try and go out there for game 5 and watch on that big screen?
Maybe out in front. Yeah, not in the arena. In the arena though,
you never know. You might be able to snipe a cheap ticket. You're waiting out there.
Yeah, I don't. If we still don't got a couch, man, I still got to worry about. I don't got to worry about buying a ticket yet. But yeah, definitely in front of the stadium, I think would be really cool. We were thinking about going today, but so it's a RSVP process.
Oh, really?
Yeah, online it says it opens at 4:30, and obviously there's a maximum capacity in that area. You can just keep filling people. It's in front of the stadium in that little amphitheater, but yeah, it's like I think it's a RSVP and then first come first serve as well. Like, and then they must start shutting it off to people. It didn't look that packed today though. I saw it on the TV.
I think it's cool. I've always wanted to do that, like when they would do it for in old Oracle, Oakland Arena, when they would do it for the road games, where you just go to the arena and sit in the arena and watch on the big screen with the fans. That always looked like it was fun, but this actually seems cooler because you got the restaurants around, you got, it's outdoors, it's hot outside.
Well, do you remember
not hot
Toronto?
But
do you remember the 2019 finals? Warriors against Toronto? Well, Warriors against the Raptors, the finals.
Oh, yeah. I remember the Raptors.
Do you remember how they did it? Like,
yeah,
they were all in front of this. Like, that looks so crazy. That's what it reminds me of. I don't think many stadiums do it like that. In game 2, they showed us the Mavs fans, and they're in the stadium. But I think it's cool, this little outdoor amphitheater they have, especially with like they tried to make it LA Live, almost all the stuff around it. I think that's pretty cool, and I like that more than inside the stadium. Even though Chase is super nice, I'd love to be inside Chase.
Okay, so like I said, this was going to be a little shorter because there wasn't a whole lot to talk about. There's not a lot that you can
Well, is there
actually.
an update on Otto?
I can check Twitter here.
And Iguodala is out for the rest of the series still?
Who knows about
I
Iguodala?
don't know what he's doing. He keeps recording podcasts. He did one with Looney right after the last game. And then GP, nothing on him. I saw him doing these just drop step
right-handed
dunks.
stuff.
Like,
Yeah,
dude,
he's
you're
doing
like
right-handed stuff
6'3",
today.
6'2". How are you doing that? Who else?
Yeah, I guess we'll probably find out tomorrow, a little bit more tomorrow. Who knows about Iguodala? I wish if that would be like a jolt of energy for them, right? If Iguodala, but maybe their thought process is, if we could get GP and Iguodala by the opening of the finals, which I think is next Thursday. So 9 days from tonight would be the opener of the NBA finals. They got to get there first. So I hope they're not counting their chickens before they hatch. But, if you get Iguodala, GP back for that, that's like a nice little jolt, nice little boost of energy for the team. But it'd be nice to see Andre for this game. This game 5, Andre understands how to close defensively, and not. I don't know if they wouldn't rely on him to
He's
do
not
that
guarding Luka.
necessarily.
He
No,
wouldn't guard Luka. He's more of like a high IQ help defender.
where he would help on Luka though is because he's got those crazy long arms. Luka
Swipe
does.
downs.
Well, not only that, but Luka does a lot of this stuff where he does the over the head passes. And Andre's arms are long enough to get hands on those passes. And so I think that would be helpful in the trap.
Yeah.
He's just so long. So Luka would have to be a little bit more careful with that stuff. But
and then Luka's gonna guard him and step off the 3-point line by 20 feet.
Yeah,
I just gotta hit him, man.
Anything on Celtics Heat? Like the Heat Celtics did not run away from the Heat like I thought they were in Game 3, but they sure did in Game 4. That was not close. So,
yeah, I mean, what I was saying, because Obi's a big Heat fan, but what it seems like is I think the Celtics are just more talented, but the Heat kind of have that championship pedigree, I guess. Not really, but they've been to the finals. Kyle Lowry 2019 beat the Warriors. PJ Tucker last year. These are nice little role players that have been there, but also Heat game 1, kind of a blowout, but the Celtics came back in it, so not really a blowout. Game 2, the Celtics beat them pretty convincingly. Game 3, the Heat were blowing the Celtics out, and then Jimmy goes down, Celtics come back in the game. Game 4, Celtics blowout. So it just seems like the Celtics wins are very convincing, whereas the Heat ones, you're left with a little bit of like, oh, maybe the Celtics could have gotten that one. I still think that it's going to be the Celtics. I could see Celtics in 7. That's what I had predicted. But the Heat, they struggle with offensive consistency, and when you lose a guy like Tyler Hero, who was your highest points per game guy in the regular season, you're obviously going to take a big hit. We were arguing on the podcast who is more important for which team, Marcus Smart for the Celtics or Tyler Hero for the Heat. Both players are almost essential for their teams, but I could totally see Tyler Hero being more important for the Heat, because without Tyler Hero, there's just not much offense to go around.
right.
So,
right.
I think the Heat have yet to prove to me that they can be consistent offensively in this playoffs, and I think that could be their downfall.
All right. So if the Warriors can close out soon enough, they could give themselves a week of rest. And we know that the earliest that Boston and Miami could finish is Friday. I think Friday would be Game 6 for them. And then Sunday, if necessary, is Game 7. So the Warriors could get a nice little break if they just take care of business. They should have taken care of business tonight. They would have 9 days of rest. But sometimes that stuff doesn't work the best either, because you kind of get out of rhythm and such. But for this team, I think it would have helped out because, we talked about GP, Andre. I'm sure these guys are dinged up. You saw Steph got kneed in the thigh today. Clay could always use the rest. He could get some bounce back. So we'll see what happens. We'll be here after Game 5 on Thursday night. And for very selfish reasons, I want them to close out because I'm going to Vegas, and I don't have to watch basketball.
Oh, yeah.
In Vegas when I'm supposed to be doing other stuff. So hopefully they can do it for me. Maybe they'll do it. They'll do it for my birthday. But yeah. So all right, we'll be back in a couple days with the recap of Game 5. So check out the BAM Pods on Twitter and the BAM Pod on Instagram. When is the episode that you guys just recorded going up?
Probably I'll throw it on tonight, so tomorrow morning.
All right, cool. All right, so for Brian, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.